I can't believe it, Steven. It's Friday again. Are other days of the week even happen? It seems like it's Friday every day.
You're dreaming. You're dreaming. But this week did go by fairly quick. The work week went very quick. I don't know about you, but it was like I'd look at the clock and look up. It's time to go. 5 o'clock around, done. You know. Oh my God. So who do we got in the chat? We got Adam, Jeff, Apicus, we've got Andy's Game Room, Mad Astra Gaming, Darth Penguin. Who else we got? Hollywood Polo. Cool. Okay. That's a new person. I think there's some new people here tonight. Good stuff.
We welcome the new and the old. Right?
Well, new, like not baby new, but well, they're welcome too if they want.
Sure, why not?
They'll just be crying a lot probably with our content.
It is. So did you have a good week? I mean, I did have a good week. Went very fast. Too fast for my taste, but
had a good week. Yeah, nothing wrong. Just I'm still working on my soldering corner in my basement. I'm slowly putting that together with soldering stations and everything, just to make sure I got a place to do some soldering and fix some of these old machines and do the mods and all that stuff, right? So, what about you? What's your... Did you have pet peeves this week? Did you have people piss you off at work?
Actually, I took Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday off of this week, so I only worked Monday and Tuesday.
Cha-ching!
I needed some time off, and I did a 3-part video series on some of my older builds, seeing if my stuff still works. And my most impressive one, my Tiny Pie with the Super Impulse and the Pac-Man, I fixed it like 3 times already, and again, it just shit the bed. So I think I'm going...
You got a Pi Zero, you said in there?
Yeah.
It's an IPS screen? Did you replace the screen, or...?
Yeah, I know the screen's the problem. There was a problem a couple of times where the screen... I soldered directly onto the flex cable. I don't have a connector. The space, I soldered right on there, and I think it tore. So I'm just going to rebuild it from scratch.
If you solder on the flex cable, you have to have low heat. Take your time.
Oh, that's for girls. You blast it up to 500 C.
You melt the damn thing in your hand.
Well, I have done so. But I get it to work. But in this case, I think it just keeps rebooting. So there's a short somewhere. So I'm gonna have to go back, and it'll be a future episode. I'm gonna go, and you know what? I should. So I made it originally. My hard drive had crashed, so I had documented the entire build process of that one, and the hard drive crashed. So I'm gonna do it again. So that's not for today. That'll be for
Just start over, or what? Press the reset on it and start over?
Kind of. And this way people can see how it was done if they want to make their own. Now, if people do want their own, a good friend of mine, Neil Henry, who runs the Old Made New forum, another Canadian, in fact, Old Made New forum on
Neil
Facebook.
Henry?
Neil Henry.
Canadian?
He's Canadian. He is. So he can make one for you, but it's not cheap. I mean, it'll cost you $300, $400, $500 because there's a lot of work to be done inside
it's a lot of manual labor.
Right. But that's kind of what our guest is kind of like today. We have a guest today who's helping people with retro consoles. Yeah, another Canadian. So first I thought it was just television and the movie studio, the Canadians you guys are taking over, but it seems like Kickin Old Skool. There are a lot of Canadians taking over here as well. So
this is a 50-50 show. We don't discriminate, you know.
Yeah,
At least North America, you know.
Yeah,
we just got to get invaded by Mexico now.
That's it. So we have a gentleman on here from Vintex 64. We're going to refer to him as Vintex. I'm trying to find out where his logo should be coming up here. Where's his logo? There we go. Bink. And I'm showing the Vectrex here because that's one of the things I'm working on with him. So he makes a flash cart, or a reproduction flash cart called the Flash Boy Plus, which is this guy right here. So what this thing will let you do is you can load one game ROM onto this flash cart and put it into your Virtual Boy and play the game. So I'm going to do a review on this and show you how to put the games on here. But what's really neat about this is not a 3D printed case. He actually made. I think we were just talking a minute ago. He's the only person who actually makes these cases. So it's a real injected molded case and connector on here. And Vintex, you're on the line now. He's only able to do audio, but Vintex, are you on the line, my friend?
Yes, I'm here. Thanks for the introduction.
Absolutely. I can't stop talking. Sometimes you got to tell me to shut up. But
hey, shut up, Glenn.
But
sure.
He does have a.
Mind if I kick off a little bit about the Flash Boy?
Go right ahead. I just pulled up your site, so please tell us a little bit about it.
Sure. So the original inventor was named Richard, and he was making them for many years. Way back in 2007, I think he released the first model, and life got busy for him. He moved on, and also there was a competitor that was making a more advanced flash card for the for the Virtual Boy. And I got bombarded with requests to make a budget flash card for the Virtual Boy because they're aware of my other reproduction Virtual Boy items. So, a team member approached me, well, why don't you ask Richard to make a resurrected Flash Boy? So I reached out to him, and to my surprise, he was very interested. And kind of just one thing led to another, and the reality is now in your hand. And the shell you mentioned I was actually right in the middle of designing the shells for my reproduction, for my regular carts. So that was all done. We were ready to get the mold in production. But when the Flash Boy came about, me and the team made a financial decision to piggyback on the mold before it was made, of course. The Virtual Boy shell, the Flash Boy shells. And the rest is history, and you have it there. The other thing I want to mention and highlight is the connector. The connector on the Flash Boy. I worked with a professional company that makes electronic connectors, and we recreated the actual Virtual Boy connector because it always was a milestone people couldn't reach in reproducing the connector. And also, it's very labor-intensive recycling connectors off donor Virtual Boy games.
And it's always hard too when you're taking a game that's actually a good game, and you're donating it because there's history with that game. So we don't want to ruin them if we don't have to. And I guess now you don't have to because you have the shells, and actually make them in different colors too. You even have a transparent shell right here, and of course you have a black shell, and even with the security screws on there. So it's very well done, very high quality. But you do more. Well, to have your website up here. You do much more than the Flash Boy cart, the Flash Boy Plus. So you actually do make recreations, and I was looking at, like even the Virtual Boy. games that if I didn't want to buy the flash card, if I actually wanted a physical game, that you actually had those as well. You do N64, some N60, some Super Nintendo. Why don't you tell us a little bit about those guys?
Sure, sure. So originally I was focusing on the N64. It's kind of like the main business and the main driver and main innovation I tried to do, but got into the Virtual Boy later due to a demand and need. There was not many hardware builders for the Virtual Boy, and originally I focused on reproductions and single carts. And as you can see, you have the Virtual Boy library that I have on the website there. And yeah, everything is custom made. I designed the PCB, selected components, and the goal was just basically cost-effective reproductions for the community. And I try to focus heavily on low cost, simplicity, and very high reliability. Like, when I made the prototypes, I literally banged these things on a cement wall or a brick wall and compared them to original cards just to make sure they're very robust. I never was happy many years ago with the quality of reproductions other people were making. So I kind of just took the initiative, designed my own stuff originally, and then kind of just piggybacked that into selling things to people a little bit here and there, and then kind of grew to the website and many selections that you see now. But main focus on N64, then got into heavily on the Virtual Boy, and then still do some Super Nintendo stuff as well.
Yeah, I'm looking at. I actually have your Super Nintendo page up right now. You have some SNES FX reproductions, but also the Super Stunner 6 gun.
Yes, yes. Me and a team member were fans of the Super Scope, but obviously the Scope was a very awkward device to use. And the original design was from someone else who passed it off online to the community. So I took that and refined it more heavily. I designed a PCB that fits perfectly in the stunner, used arcade-style trigger switches, micro switches, and the idea was to make something reliable, simple, robust, and also it uses donor receivers. I don't know if you know from the Super Scope, but you have the receiver that goes on top of your TV.
Right.
And I realized that the one of the chips it needed and the cable and connector were actually hard to recreate or hard to find high quality. So to keep things simple, I just take donor receivers, a donor stunner. You have a picture of the PCB right there. And what you see is the cable soldered onto the PCB.
Right.
And I tried different chips, but the original receiver chip works the best, ironically. And quite proud of that device, me and the team. Sold quite a few. They're quite popular. And it really changes things a lot when you play the old titles on the Super Nintendo. Much easier to control, good response. I actually beat Battle Clash and the Super Scope 6 games with it to ensure its functionality was very well.
And I assuming you do need to use a CRT, correct?
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, and I know the Super Scope 6. I never owned one personally, but I've used it, and I never liked it. The Super Scopes, I felt it wasn't really even accurate, to be quite honest. So seeing something like this is good because I don't think the SNES had a lot of love for shooting games like this because I don't think a Super Scope really did a really good job personally.
No, I hear you loud and clear. And there were some decent Super Scope games. There were some decent games, and how should I say, the Sega Stunner is the most popular light gun ever made in retro gaming across the board. So it's quite something to take the best light gun and retro gaming and apply it to the Super Nintendo. It was quite something.
You can see the inside here, how everything is laid out on the gun.
Yeah.
And I think light guns right now, is kind of back in popularity. They went away for a long time, again, because, CRTs, a lot of people didn't have them for a while. But I think with retro gaming and these older consoles, people are now going out and finding CRTs or taking it out of the attic or the basement where they left it. So something like this is really, really cool to add to it. And it seems reasonable, the pricing for this, for the gun. Now, tell us a bit about your history. I want to say a quick shout out to GLS Gaming. Very happy to have him here. Like, what got you involved with all of this? There had to be some type of caveat that said, you know what, that I want to get in this. And was it more of a hobby thing to start off just for yourself? Was it more of you wanted a business out of it? Kind of how did that work?
Sure, sure. So, grew up in the '90s, and had a NES from my brother, the Super Nintendo. Went heavy in the N64. So I was just like a regular kid who very passionate about gaming and Nintendo stuff. And I kept everything. Even when I got older, I kept everything, added a little bit as time went on. And as life moved on, I pursued my main career and kind of working in the industry for a while, something very different. Kind of went back to it, and then kind of just wanted to buy some nice stuff. What did I miss? The internet age really came to age, and I started to find out things I missed out on, top popular titles, collect things I liked. And I started to realize it was not easy to get the things I liked. It wasn't easy to get Star Fox 2. That was probably the first thing I wanted the most. And then I ended up building it myself. And other things I started building myself. And I always had in the back of my mind, kind of have a business where I can kind of express myself, design my own stuff, share it with other people. I worked in companies for many years and enjoyed the work, project after project, developing a lot of stuff. And, companies come and go, projects come and go. And I just kind of find myself going back to what made me happy in my childhood, and also just really enjoyed making things that other people liked, and also really enjoyed making quality. And kind of just started off small, made a few things for myself, sold a few things, and then just kind of slowly things grew, and things grew a little more. I found good team members that helped me out, and just kind of also realized that there weren't many people doing this, or many people doing it for a reasonable price to high quality. And kind of stuck with it, kept things simple, efficient, and just one thing led to another, and enjoyed the work more
See,
or less.
I like you already because you kept saying two things: quality, quality, quality. That's one thing you kept saying. And again, from looking at this right here that I have in my hands, I can say that at least physically, from a physical standpoint, the soldering points, the shell, everything seems really, really solid. And I know you mentioned before, you were talking about the plastics that Nintendo used for the Virtual Boy, and how you actually went down to try and make sure it actually felt the same with that as well, which was not easy.
Yeah, exactly. The biggest challenge I had with the injection molding project on the Virtual Boy was not the mold design or the
That wasn't for
sorry.
you. That was for the
Oh,
that
okay,
was for
okay.
Wolfenized. That
All
wasn't
right.
for you.
Just wondering if I should pay attention to something. But yeah, ironically, and what even surprised my molding supplier was it was very hard to find the right ratio of plastic, because too soft, the screws don't hold up. Too hard, it doesn't feel right, and it hits hard in your Virtual Boy console, or can even scratch the plastic. So we actually had to do a couple of batches of different experimental plastic to try to find the right blend, the right ratio. And what you have is probably the final conclusion. And I'm very happy with how those turned out. And they're actually three different materials, because different materials have different natural colors. The clear is one type, the black is another, and then the gray. And so it was a bit of a challenge, but had a very good molding shop. We experimented with stuff they had laying around. I did my own research to try to propose some cocktails, and just good old trial and error.
Now, we
And
have actually a comment here. Steven, you want to read this here from JLS Gaming?
Yeah, basically, it's one that I'm also interested in. It seems I've been very quiet in the last 15 minutes here. Basically, JLS Gaming is like, if it hasn't already been asked, have you attempted to do an MVS, Neo Geo MVS kart reproductions? I know it's a bit more heavy duty, but what's your thoughts on that?
Believe it or not, me and team members were discussing what development projects for the future, and the Neo Geo did come up. I always liked how it's a big, beefy PCB. I kind of like the choice of components they have on it. and even some of the support chips on it, people recreated it with common parts. So I did quite a bit of research on it.
Well, if you do, let me know because I've got one back here.
Okay.
It's a picture, but it's in my arcade. So if you do MVS stuff, you're going to make quite a few people around here, anyways. Very happy if you do reproductions because I've seen the price for those cartridges. They go from anywhere from $200 to $800,000 just for the original carts, and I'm like, okay,
I hope
that's
you meant
enough to
800
play
to
one game.
1,000, not 800,000.
Yeah, that's what I meant. But it's nuts, man. Like it's stupid as far as the pricing for MVS Neo Geo stuff. It's just expensive across the board. Even the flash cartridges are astronomical. Like they're insane.
If you can
So-
find them too. If you can
Well,
find them.
there's what was it? Darksoft made one, and the Terra Onion guys made one, and they're both just for one card. It's like $600 roughly, and I'm sitting there going, I didn't even pay that for the cabinet. Never mind a cartridge, So it's kind of hard to justify it, right? So
Well, I guess they think of it as if you bought 2 or 3 cartridges, it would cover the cost. But I agree I do agree it's a very high price point. I know like a lot of the normal flash carts, 100, maybe $150. The Jaguar cart, the EverDrive for the Jaguar is like $200, and that's kind of the limit of what most people I think will spend for a flash card.
the Super Nintendo one, I think it's not the Super FX. What's it called? SD to SNES. It's called something else now, FX Pro or something. That has all kinds of FPGA stuff, and it's like $350 or something for that thing.
Well, when you start
And
getting
I'm
into
like-
adding FPGAs, those chips cost. There's a cost to those, so it's
So
hard to
if
do.
there's a way, Vintex, that you can actually get an MVS card out there, let us know. We'll get you back on.
Leave that with me. Leave that with me.
Yeah. Let us know for sure.
Now, you're
But,
talking about, you have a team and stuff like that. You always started with you and a few other people? Was it just you that started this and it kind of grew from there?
I kind of started on my own. I do have one dedicated member that's in the family, so he's always available to help out during the busy build cycles. But a few people came and went over the years. So it's kind of a stable team of around 4-ish. Some people come about. Sometimes there's extra team members, sometimes a few less. Sometimes people come from out of town. So we kind of all work anonymous, but it's a pretty steady team of 3, I would say. And some part-timers that come in and about here and there. And it's quite a bit to keep all this going. And also, it's kind of also nice finding people who are just like you, or people who never even hold a soldering iron in their life.
You can always tell those people because here's a soldering iron, and they hold it like this. So these are the people who never had a soldering iron in their hand before when they hold it like that.
Yeah, they now have no more fingerprints after.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. But what's kind of funny is I designed my stuff to be built for the business, so made it very generous for soldering. And I got people that they have a lot of heart for it. They're kind of scared to pick up a soldering iron. And I just show them, be careful of temperature, this and that. This is the easy part. And it's quite amazing how quickly some of these guys can catch on, build a lot of stuff. Mind you, it's not small component or package sizes. It's very large. I do a lot of through-hole technology because high vibration protection, easy to build, and very reliable. And it's interesting to just have a couple of guys that are very passionate about it. They try it, and it's quite surprising when you get a good team together how much you can make and put together yourselves.
That's cool. So we're going to ask you some questions of the yesteryears, we'll call it.
Okay.
So we're going to ask you, and we've asked you before the show, so no, we're not going to scare you or anything like that. So nobody's going to have a heart attack. So probably, like, you're a different generation than Glenn and I. We're Generation X, and I don't know what they called your generation exactly, but Generation Y maybe. I don't know. Who knows? And essentially, what kind of television did you get up? Because I don't know. I guess in the 90s, you could still get up on Saturday mornings and watch cartoons or watch some television. And if you can, share with us. Like, what did you wake up? Because you're, like I said, a different generation than our generation. So that at least, what did you wake up on? If you did watch Saturday morning cartoons, if you didn't,
Sure.
different story. But share with the gang to say, hey, I watched this or that. So
No problem. Yeah, I watched a lot of Saturday morning cartoons. Very good memories in the 90s. And, there was Conan the Barbarian. There was Reboot, the first computer image.
that was made in
CD.
Canada.
Yeah. I was lucky that my parents had a very good rooftop antenna. So we were able to get some stations in the States like ABC and NBC. I remember Cadillacs and Dinosaurs. That was an old favorite when I was a kid. And I remember kind of like me and my brother, we would figure out all the timings of the shows in Saturday morning. And we would figure out, okay, we'll watch through one season of this show, then we'll change channels to this show. There's a commercial break here. We can catch a glimpse of another show here. So we were always competing to find the best shows. And it was a lot of fun. And I admit I kind of reintroduced myself to some of them. The release on DVD, some of them.
Did they release Reboot again? Did they put that back out there? I don't remember.
They made a nice DVD set.
Did they?
And then there's always the special locations where you can find the complete series.
Oh yeah, the darker parts of the internet. Yes.
Yeah. But they made a good DVD series. And back in the day when you're a kid, sometimes your rooftop antenna is not working, so you missed a few episodes, or for some reason the date recording never worked on that one episode. So
gotcha.
It's quite something to see everything back to back without commercials and in high quality.
So you grew up in the Ottawa area?
Yeah.
Safe to say?
Yeah.
So in the Ottawa area, so that at least they had a lot of over-the-air stuff in that area for sure. And you had basically all the Canadian content that you could shake a stick at.
Of course.
In the Ottawa area especially, because that's about as bilingual as you're going to get down there. Do you speak French at all, or?
No, it was actually not one of my strong points. Language wasn't my strong point. It was more technical and math and stuff like that.
Oh, gotcha. No, but what I'm getting at is the Ottawa area is there's a lot of bilingualism in that area for sure.
Yes, of course.
Like it's almost 50-50 French people and English people. So it's interesting to say the least, for sure. So Glenn, what do you want to ask him about movies, or do we ask him about movies? Do we ask him about, music? Or what do we ask him about?
Well, the thing I always like to ask him is, he's obviously into retro gaming. So, like, what was his first experience? What was his first console? What was your first experience in an arcade? What was your favorite console of all time, whether it's a new or an old machine? Those are things I generally like to ask, especially someone who builds hardware, because you obviously have a passion. If you're doing these things so other people can experience it, what was your first question is going to be, what was your first console, and what was your most favorite console?
Sure. So I do remember a bit of the 80s when I was a wee little fella, and my brother had a NES. And I remember him introducing me to Mega Man and Super Mario Brothers 3. So probably at a very young age, I started with the original NES. Mind you, I really used the Game Genie for all it's worth, so I would last much longer. So I started with that, then kind of got into the Super Nintendo Heavy, and that's probably where I have my most vivid memories. I loved Star Fox as a kid. That was like one of my favorites. And I remember one of the biggest days I can remember was when I beat the hardest mode, level 3 mode, the different path, all by myself when I was young. That was a big moment for me. And I guess that kind of led into a little bit of why I was so passionate to build my own Star Fox 2. It was something I always wish I had when I was a kid. So heavy on the Super Nintendo, knew the original Nintendo, but kind of really got heavy on the N64 as a kid as well. Had quite a few games, really loved the system, the technology behind it. And I kept everything, kept revisiting it when I was older. And I guess, kind of the later N64 years, very vivid memories. And I guess I just kept everything, added to my little collection. I kept it in suitcases in the closet, and then once in a while got it out and enjoyed it. And I guess, really enjoy going back to Star Fox once in a while. And, I didn't know about Super Weekend yet, which was a competition version of Star Fox.
Right.
So had to have a copy of that, but couldn't afford it, so built my own. The Wire Monstrosity, the older Star Fox 2 and Super Weekend reproduction ways. And I guess what was interesting as I worked in industry and learned a lot from other designers and engineers and being in the field, and just realized one day, like, why not build things better for myself and for some friends and this and that. And a lot of Star Fox 2 repos were wire monstrosities. They worked. Don't get me wrong. Some of those guys have a lot of talent. They could do things I can't do. But there's a better way when you design PCBs and custom PCBs. And I always enjoyed designing PCBs, and I always enjoyed overbuilding them. The joke from the engineering department is when they give me something to build, I'll make it last forever. But I always believed in quality. And it was just kind of like merging everything together in my later years. Things I like to do, the side business. I admit I wasn't sure if it's going to be that popular, or I kind of expected maybe I'll sell one a month kind of things. But it surprised me how big demand was. And I kind of find myself in a funny situation where there's not many people doing these things, and particularly the Virtual Boy. Like if I quit, for an example, if I just quit and didn't want to do the Virtual Boy anymore, how are people going to get a copy of Jack Brothers, which is a game I also really loved on the Virtual Boy?
Absolutely. And it's outrageously expensive to get the original. I mean, it's like $500, $600, $700, which is crazy. And that's what I was going to ask you as well, because I'm looking at your prices here on these cartridges. Are you making any money? Because you're not charging a lot for these things.
Yeah. Well, it's in the FAQ, and I just cover business costs and business operations. There's no outstanding profit for myself. So I balance it out. Depending on raw materials costs, you see the prices based on past raw material costs when I overbought some stock. And when I run out of raw materials and they go up in price, then usually I update the prices based on that. Because, I know the people that go down the road of take advantage of people that really want the stuff bad and adjust prices for that. But like, I don't go near that. I'm going to stay very ethical with this. And also, how should I say, when you get to some homebrews and that, there's sometimes controversy about, oh, you're stealing this, stealing that. I'm only covering operational costs, raw material costs. There's no outstanding profit for myself.
And that's when it goes to what I said before. This is more of a passion that you're doing versus it's not a business if you're not really making money. You're doing this for the love of these games. Again, your prices, I'm looking here on your website, you have like, Super Mario Brothers 64, Metal Mario, or Mario with no cap, Speed, or the Odyssey 64. They're going for like $35 a piece. So, or $40 for the a couple of other variants, but that's not a lot of money.
No, true. I appreciate that. Truth to be told, that there is restructuring coming in the fall, so things might fluctuate a little bit. There might be some cost increases. But yeah, a lot of it also goes into how I designed it. And I'm almost in the recycling business as much as the retro gaming business, because I buy donors cheap. So I buy lots on eBay of donor carts of unwanted sports games and other games, and I recycle the chips. And that saves a lot on raw material costs, practicality, and then there's the volume of standard PCBs.
Right.
So, there's a lot of thought behind the costing and the structure. But believe it or not, many of my competitors, they recreate everything. They recreate the save chips, they recreate the shell, they recreate everything. But I took an approach very different, and I may be one of the few people that took this approach this heavily, but I very heavily recycle existing chips and components and cost-effective components. You mentioned FGPAs.
Yes.
Well, I use in mine no FGPAs. I use standard Texas Instruments parts that are like cents a chip, and the stuff you see on my website is stuff that I figured out that I can build super cheap, super reliable, super simple, super easy to put together. And I stay away usually from very complex projects in that. And the prices reflect that.
Well, also, I mean, we were talking before the show, and you were saying you're more of a hardware engineer versus a software. Now, I don't know a ton about FPGAs, but I'm assuming a lot of that is really more of a software engineer side. Am I not right with that, or is a hardware engineer doing a lot of stuff in an FPGA?
I would say more hardware based, because usually hardware engineers have custom software that the suppliers provide for their FGPAs and other programmable chips. So you use the supplier's software to create the source code and everything. But you get into a lot of complexity with that and time. And the Flash Boy actually was one of the more complicated designs I got into, although I resurrected it and took the torch over from Richard. But I had to get deeper into the
Not sure what happened here. It looks like our Skype session just is Microsoft doing an update. I think they just did an update and they just dropped everyone. How do you like that? I lost Steven before, and now I lost everyone. Let me see if I can call him back. Gotta like Skype.
minute.
There we go. I think they're coming back.
Okay, sorry about that.
No, it wasn't you. I think Microsoft literally just did a software update of Skype right now.
Oh my.
You know, that's the thing with Microsoft that kills me. You know, now they just do it. They don't ask you. They just do an update in there and bam. Bam. Now, although I am a bit of a ham, and I don't mind being by myself, but I like having you guys here. So please continue.
Can you hear me and see me now?
Yes, we can.
Okay.
Yes.
Wow.
You were telling me it was disconnected. I was like, everything's fine here.
You were gone, but you are back now, and I got to add your icon back. So here we go. 1, 2, 3. Here we go. We're a
That's
family
better.
again. Thanks, Thanks, Microsoft.
Yeah, middle finger, Microsoft.
Ugh.
I like my Xbox, but not much else.
No. So please continue. Again, that was Microsoft. A little kid on my screen saying, doing an update.
Glenn said it.
I did.
Yeah.
It's
The
not picking at
answer-
Old Skool without a screw up.
Yeah.
Well, apparently, Stephen, you don't know. Apparently, that Virtual Boy in the middle of the screen was blaring at 4,000 decibels, and I didn't know it. So we actually started on a
People
glitch.
in chat were talking about it, and I guess you were.
Yeah.
You
Yes.
lowered the volume and stuff like that.
I
so-
did. I did.
Is everything okay now?
Glenn's an old man, but I think right now we're okay.
Perfect.
The
Perfect.
loudest thing ever.
But to tie up
Continue.
your question, usually when you buy FGPAs from certain suppliers, they usually have courses, online material, and software to go with it. So, I kind of came across this when I was researching the Wide Boy and the FGPA in that. Usually hardware engineers would learn their software or have experience with it, and then kind of just program based on the demand. Usually when you get into FGPAs, you're dealing with a lot of complexity and inputs and outputs and stuff like that. I usually try to keep things just very simple and straightforward, because the N64 and even the Virtual Boy, believe it or not, I like to focus on cartridge technology, and cartridge technology is actually pretty simple relatively. You have the ROM chip, which replaced with EPROMs, and you just have you just have the inputs and outputs, pull up and pull down resistors. The N64 is a little more complex, where it's all custom chips. Everything is custom. So you have to have a lot of support chips to mask and replicate the inputs and outputs and data lines. But sorry, long story short, I stay away from complexity like that, and I just keep things as simple as possible.
Well, by doing that also, you're keeping your costs down, I'm assuming. Because again, I'm looking at the prices. You even it says you do repair PCBs. Like, what do you do there?
What do you fix?
Yeah, exactly.
What do you fix? What do you repair? What do you?
Sure.
Does somebody bring you like a television, or you don't fix those, or you know what I mean? Like,
No, I usually stay away from televisions there. But
you don't want to get electrocuted with 20,000 volts of old CRT goodness.
well, I'm bringing my step maybe, but there might be consequences later.
Yeah, you'll get a new hairdo if you get electrocuted.
I guess what happened was, when I was researching very heavily, I found some forums where people were really stuck, where they needed a save chip or they needed a game repaired, and they were really stuck. And some people pushed the hell out of that form. Where can I go? Who can help me? Who can do this? Who knows something? And since I was already having a heavy inventory of original parts, and it's kind of more of a courtesy, people will email me up. I got a Poke Stadium 2. I tried everything, doesn't boot. And I just say, well, just put in an order, send it to me. You don't mind waiting. I do a group of them together. And usually it's a bad PCB. The original OEM PCBs on the N64, they're okay, but a number of them fail or give trouble. And I have equipment already to extract the chips for my main product lines. So it's just as easy as having spare OEM boards, the original board, and just swap the chips in a good board. I sometimes try to save the original save file. And it was just more for those people that are stuck. They need a repair service. I don't see many people do it. And it's just kind of something where usually I ask them if they don't mind waiting a few months, because I do a group of them together or with a team member. And it's just kind of like, build positive feedback in the community. And I don't get a huge amount of repair requests, but they come up here and there. And they're always fun. They're always fun to, meet the people behind it.
You'll need to do recap services, because that seems to be the big thing with these old machines, right? It's capacitors. It's always replacing capacitors. I have about 2 Super Nintendos here. Need new caps.
Yeah.
Game Gears need new caps. Especially Game Gears.
Yeah, they're always the first. Yeah, they're always the first to go, because they all have limited shelf life. They all have limited shelf life because they have a fluid inside. That fluid dries up. Yeah.
Or leaks out onto your circuitry and eats up your traces, and then you're cursing and swearing and you're crying, and every emotion in the book that your precious thing is gone or whatever. Glenn and I know what that's all about with Amigas.
Unfortunately,
leaky capacitors all over everything, and
that's really scary.
Acid.
Know what else is scary? Cocaine Bear.
Yeah, I love that movie.
So has anyone? I put it in the chat. Has anyone seen Cocaine Bear? It's like the most ridiculous movie. That's awesome.
Funniest piece of ridiculousness I've seen in a long time. We need movies like that more.
Now,
Don't take
Vintex,
life too serious.
Would you go see Cocaine Bear? Have you seen Cocaine Bear? Is that like something you would go see?
I would have to put on my list. I might have to see what the hype's about.
Well, it's a true story, not exactly
well,
true.
It's based on a true story. Based on a true story. For
those of you that don't know, I'll explain, because I did a bit of research before I actually. So apparently, this dude was flying back and forth from South America, and he had like a pile of cocaine on his plane, and he basically jumped out of his plane with a bunch of cocaine, and his parachute. He had too much weight on him, and he literally dropped a bunch of packages on the way down, and he cased himself and died on somebody's front lawn.
Oh my!
Legitimately. And then I think a week later, they found this bear that was dead, that ingested cocaine. That's the real part.
Well, Jason wants to see the sequel, Raccoon.
Yeah. Raccoon.
Well,
so anyways, the movie goes nuts about that whole story. Kind of, they embellish a lot.
I actually did see it, and I got to say, it's
me too.
It's completely ridiculous, but it also, you know what?
It's awesome.
It's awesome.
It's totally awesome. It's a bunch of ridiculous. It's almost like trying to explain to somebody why they should go see Dumb and Dumber. It's the same kind of like. I've actually talked to friends of mine that are like, well, is there a story in Dumb and Dumber? No, man, it's in the title. It's Dumb and Dumber. Like, it's not, don't look for Titanic kind of story. You know what I mean? Like, don't bother, It's awesome. It's a great ride. That's all it is. It's a great ride of a movie. So it's pretty cool. Well, any favorite movies?
Yeah. What do you like? What's your genre, Vintex? What do you watch?
Your go-to movie.
Yes.
Yeah, what's your go-to?
Sure. So it's all movies across the board, but believe it or not, I'm kind of a sucker fan to like 80s and 90s classic sci-fi movies. I always find there's a certain character of those movies that you never see anywhere else. I love the original Alien movies, the Star Trek movies from back in the day, Wrath of Khan, the usual stuff. And
Glenn will tell you there's no STDs around here.
No.
Star Trek Discovery.
Yes, STDs, Star Trek Discovery.
Not venereal diseases.
But you're right up our alley then, because we Total Recall, Commando,
Escape from New York and Logan's Run.
Yeah, Pliskin Run here. He's saying that right now.
He's naming them all off.
But what was that movie? I'm trying to think. I'm drawing a blank. Oh my God.
Describe it.
Well, I was reading his stuff and I forgot what I was going to say, but there was it'll come to me later. But 80s movies had a lot of really good stuff in there. I think that's the problem now is what gets more than anything, and this is when Glenn goes on one of his rants, is they'll take a name like Star Trek or Star Wars, but that's not what you're getting. They'll flaunt like Luke Skywalker, they'll flaunt the character, and you go see this movie, it's got nothing to do with them, or just to tear them down. And that's, I think, the big problem.
It's like Starsky and Hutch Chips. They redid both of those.
Right.
And you watch those and you're like, there's nothing to do. Oh, it's vaguely.
Well, that's why I think Cocaine Bear was awesome, because it's new. There was no 80s Cocaine Bear. So it was like you're finding out about Cocaine Bear now. Right. Huh. There was no history to ruin. And Upkus right here is saying They Live. I got my brother into that recently, like 3 weeks ago, and now he can't get enough of it. He loves They Live from John Carpenter.
It's so cheesy, it's awesome.
It is. And I got my son to watch. He was like, The Wraith. I'm not sure if you guys know that one.
Oh yeah, The Wraith, yeah.
And that was with
Cobra.
Cobra's the other good one.
Is it Corba or Cobra?
No, it's Cobra.
Well, he wrote Corba.
Yeah, it's just a typo. It's Pliskin. It's okay.
With Stallone, with the gun and
so
and
what would
else.
so Vintex, what would be like your favorite? Like I tend to go back to like Flash Gordon, Black Hole, and of course Star Wars, but those like Flash Gordon, if I'm having a really bad day, I'll throw Flash Gordon on and I'll throw on the Black Hole and just sit down and watch it. What is like a movie that's like you can watch a million times? That's not Star Wars or Star Trek. What's like outside that genre?
Oh boy.
Yeah, that's a tough question.
Yeah.
He's gonna give him a nosebleed there. What the hell?
And it's okay. It's okay. I don't know if you'll just add a rule to what I'm about to say, but James Cameron's Aliens.
Good movie.
Yeah, it's a good one.
It's really high on my list. And what I also really liked about that, kind of going into what you guys were talking about, is, that was done with very basic technology, and it looks so fantastic even today. Like how he made all those effects and the look and the world and the monsters with very simple
practical
props.
effects. You're talking about practical effects.
Yes.
Look very real. They look very real.
Yeah.
The same guys that did Terminator, that did the special effects on Aliens, if I'm not mistaken, Stan Winston's studios. I'm pretty sure that he did a lot of the special effects work on Aliens, Terminator 1 and 2. I believe.
Well, I got to say, James Cameron is making, billions and billions of dollars right now.
No relation,
Avatar.
Never got a paycheck in the mail.
No, but go watch Battle Beyond the Stars. It's from the 80s. And it's got John Boy in it from the Waltons. And James Cameron did the majority of the effects for that movie. And I'm not saying that they're bad. I don't know what the budget. I think they had a very small budget. But when you look at that, I want you to watch Battle Beyond the Stars and picture James Cameron making the big boob ship, because there's a ship that looks like big boobs, and everything else that's in the show. And now realize he's like making $2 billion in Avatar with his effects now. So it's funny where people come from and go to.
Oh yeah, for sure.
True.
So you sticking to the sci-fi. You didn't go outside the colored lines too much as far as sorry, like there was no I'm not gonna say Titanic or anything crazy sappy like that, but
that was 2000s anyway. He said 80s. You got pictures of the 80s. Steel Magnolias.
Well, you grew up as a child of the 90s. I mean, there's some really good movies that came out in the 90s. It's anything that struck your fancy there, or you just went to the classics?
Oh.
Yeah, we threw you for loops there, Vintex. I don't think it's going to be easy coming on here.
Yeah. Well, I kind of like just quality movies. And I just find when you go into quality movies, I kind of got into something years ago where I kind of gone through all the sci-fi and all the top action movies and just went into other genres. What were the best Disney movies? What were they about? Never saw them. The best romance movies to an extent. Even just what stood out, and I just find overall good movies. The Untouchables, for example. I saw that when I was a little kid on TV and loved it. It's a violent gangster movie, but
Oh yeah, it's a great show.
just quality movies, and still heavy into movies before the comic book movie craze took over. And I just find myself going back to the 80s, 90s, and just enjoying what they made and what stood out.
We
Okay,
got a lot of
I gotta
suggestions
ask.
in the chat.
I do, but I gotta ask the tough question right now. This is gonna be the tough question. How many Star Wars movies are there?
Oh boy. Let's see. We got the original 3. We got the 3
It's a
remakes.
trick question.
The Clone War world. Pre-Disney, post-Disney.
Well, I'm hoping you're gonna give the right answer here. So I don't want to give too much after that, but you kind of said one of the words in there, so hopefully it won't be mentioned again. But
Oh, okay. Oh, that doesn't count. Oh, I'm
I
sorry.
told you it's a trick
Right.
question.
Okay.
we're gonna just at theatrical. How many theatrical Star Wars movies are there? Put it that way.
That matter.
I would say 3 pre-Disney. No, sorry, 6 pre-Disney.
Okay, we're good. All right, let's stop right there. Okay, we're still friends. We stopped. All right, perfect. Pre-Disney. Okay.
Okay.
I would have given
Glenn
you.
pulled you from the edge of
I
the
did.
cliff. You have to
I would have
understand
given you. I would have given you Rogue One. I would have given you Rogue One. That's a pass. Anything else, the interview would have been done. It would have right.
Solo's a teetering.
Yeah, it would have went right.
nightmare,
It
but
could have went right to this. Beep. So
stand
it
by
didn't
that.
happen.
He always gets people with that trick question. I could just see the beads of sweat coming off his forehead and just like, oh, is this the right answer? Look at the chat; it's going nuts. There's somebody saying 4, 3.
Well,
6,
everyone
11.
knows. Everyone knows
You
my
know.
trigger. My trigger is going to be anything with Disney and Star Wars. It's going to be my
My
instant
cousin
trigger.
Sean called me a spelling Nazi, so screw you, Sean, and the horse you came in on. You said 3.
Well, I thought he was going to ask, how many episodes there were in the original Star Trek series.
The Wrath of Khan. That's the only one that matters.
Well, yeah, that's what you got to say. If you mess up Star Trek, say Wrath of Khan, and everything's forgiven. It's one of those things. So we're
Sorry.
good. We're good. So outside of all this stuff, and obviously you have this. This has to take up a lot of your time, though. This side business, all these things. This has to take up a lot of your time. But what do you do outside of that? Obviously you like movies,
Is this full time or do you have a career?
right? Basically.
Yeah. Well, I work full-time in industry and companies and that. So I do the whole Vintex thing part-time. I admit it's been heavy the last couple of years, so I have to make some tough decisions, but I owe a lot to the team members that do a lot. And also, when things are a bit slow, I usually pre-build a lot of boards, and with other team members too. And then when orders come in and it's a heavy time, or you have a big collector that wants a lot of stuff, there's a lot of pre-made boards. So it's just a matter of soldering one chip on, send it in an envelope, and get it out there. So it's kind of, that helps stabilize things a little more. So yeah, and kind of outside of that, kind of just regular things with the friends,
What are
traveling here and
those
there.
friends? I'll Google that. Who's got time for them? Who's got time for them?
We lost a lot of friends in COVID times. It was a sad time for humanity. Everybody went online virtually, that sort of thing. So that's pretty cool. So you're a full-time engineer or like an electronic engineer, like as your day job, or?
Full-time engineer, yes.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
What do you mainly do for? You don't need to tell us who you work for and all that stuff, but what's your main job? Do you oversee people? Or are you more hands-on? Are you one of the grunts in the basement kind of thing, or?
I would say it's kind of across the board. Where I work, we do a lot of prototyping, validation. So it depends on the project. Some projects are very hands-on, build this, build that. Some projects are more theory and development. Some are more resurrect this old design or fix it. Some is working with collaboration with others on a bigger project. So it's I would say it's kind of mixed. The type of work I do with the current company is a lot of rapid prototyping and physical prototyping, where before I did a lot more theory behind computers and CAD and stuff like that.
Oh,
So,
cool.
yeah,
There's nothing wrong with that, for sure. So that's good. How old is your business again?
I would say more officially, and when the traction built up, 5 years, six, but
Okay.
started very modestly 8 years ago.
Well, either way, Glenn and I wish you a lot of success. You're not leaving right now, but I'm just saying, before we forget, we wish you a lot of success with your business. And
Yep, and
it's
I want
good
to
stuff.
remind everyone
And
that I will be doing a review of his Flash Boy Plus for the Virtual Boy. And I also want to remind you also that the GRS Build-A-Cade contest has a week left, designing some artwork. Very simple. Steven, you can enter. Just draw up some artwork and get it
if I
over.
win it, we'll never hear the end
Oh,
of it. So I will.
stop. You won't win anyway. But if you did,
Well,
it's
I'm
fine.
just saying.
So we
I'm
have
just
1 week
saying.
left on that, and we want someone to win some great prizes. So make sure you, join the contest. It's very simple. Draw a nice piece of artwork to put in the Build-A-Cade. Boom! You can win some great prizes.
Yeah, maybe next time we'll get Vintex to do some giveaways while he's on or something. Help him promote his business. It's all
Sure.
good.
We're promoting his business anyway. We don't shake him down for stuff to promote him.
Not us. It's not for us. It's for the crowd, the viewers, the chat. I got too much crap here, anyways. Not that your stuff's crap. I'm just saying I got a lot of stuff here. And
No, actually, I was looking at a couple things here, and I
you got a lot of stuff too, Glenn.
I do, but I definitely want a couple of those Virtual Boy repro carts.
I've
this,
never
the
tried
prices,
a Virtual Boy ever.
Well, you know that's the problem. And I think Vintex will agree. Like the Atari Lynx and the Atari Jaguar, people always said it was horrible, it was bad, so people didn't buy them, people didn't play them. The Virtual Boy is quite fun, and to be honest, you can still get them at, for the most part, a good price, because a lot of times you see them saying not working, like one of the eyes is not working right. They are fairly easy to fix. The Virtual Boys that have a problem with their lenses, the glue simply came off of the ribbon cable, and it's fairly easy to fix, even for people who are not very good at soldering. But the Virtual Boy has a lot of fun games on it. It does, and of course I have 3 because why not? But if you link 2 together, they have a very good Street Fighter clone on there that you can play. But the Virtual Boy, it got a lot of hate. Basically because it was monochrome color at a time when color handhelds were coming out. And people were like, why would I want to play a game only in red? But it's a fun experience. And they were saying it's eye problems, which was total
There's
BS.
people that complain they have headaches with this thing.
It's all BS.
I don't know because I've never tried it.
Those people had headaches beforehand.
Probably.
I've played it for hours and hours. The only thing I will say is, when you are playing the Virtual Boy, you're inside like this and you're not seeing any outside light. So when you do come away from it in a bright lit room, it's that you're going to be like, because you're in a bright lit room.
Yeah.
But it's a fun
fact. A little fun fact about the eye strain in that is the original developer and inventor of the Virtual Boy for Nintendo got a report done by an optics company and specialists in eyes. And they found out that it doesn't actually cause damage. It actually helps improve eyesight by maintaining more alignment and encouraging the eyes to maintain better focus.
Right.
And there was a company that actually experimented with the Virtual Boy as part of optical correctionness and support. So with so much talk about it's going to destroy your eyes, the hard data and research shows that it's actually the opposite. And the real end result of all that hype is not everyone has their eyes equally calibrated. So those that complain about headaches, they usually have one eye not as strong as the other. And anything like that, where 3D movies or any other modern VR headset, they'll have the same issue. So I just felt something that's totally misunderstood.
It is, and I actually really enjoy my Virtual Boy. I like quirky consoles anyway, and this definitely fits that bill. And I do like the technology behind it. I was always a big fan of the Vintex Adventure Vision, which used 40 LEDs and a rotating mirror to create the effects. The Virtual Boy kind of took that to the next generation, where it has a vibrating mirror and more LEDs for better resolution. But again, if you guys never experienced it, you should. Again, there's not a thousand great games on it, but there's some fun games. Like Telebox right there is a game I actually enjoy. I know the angry video game nerd kind of, jokingly craps on these things, but it's actually not a bad console. It's
Yeah.
not.
I just find the Virtual Boy was an easy console to criticize over the years.
Yes.
And many people just threw it out. And, it's a shame that it wasn't more successful. And it was a little bit due to how it was released and Nintendo not having better titles for it and stuff like that. But how should I say, as a strange console and stuff like that, it actually does its job well. It functions well, works well. It's actually well engineered for what it is. And being this deep in it, you can kind of tell where they rushed it to market, and you can kind of tell it was never quite finished. It was kind of between one design and between another. So they just package it together and send it out. And it's always very interesting, like what happened, what it became, and even the link cable to link two together to play two-player games. Oh, running out of time?
No, I was saying hi to Liana there, but we are actually almost out of time. We're at 8:59, so actually we are almost out of time. So real quick, I will put down in the chat afterwards the Vintex64.com website. I highly recommend you guys take a look at it, especially if you are a Nintendo 64, SNES, Virtual Boy connoisseur. That light gun looks pretty good. I may even pick that up.
I want to say something before
go.
we sign off. Andy, I don't think we're going to rank adult movies next week. Just saying. I'd love to, but I don't think YouTube's code of conduct would allow that to happen.
No. And we don't want to show any of Glenn's previous movies other than Toxic Avenger. We want to stay away from those.
Yeah. It's as much as it'd be a lot of fun, the adult-rated version of Kickin' It Old Skool would mean a whole new thing.
Pretty much.
We'd all sleep on the couch.
So, Vintex, again, I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Absolutely.
I really appreciate it. Again, everyone, I recommend taking a look at his website. I will have a review shortly of his Virtual Boy Flash card here as well. Again, the whole point of this channel is to, bring back the retro, and he's obviously doing that at prices I can't believe, to be quite honest. I'm really taking my hat off, not really because I'm bald, but if I did, the prices are more than reasonable for what he's offering on here. And if you're looking for some Flash older games that are hard to come by, or games that are mods that you can't normally get on a cartridge, he has them on there. So I really want to thank you for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. And I want to say once again, take a look at our last week's episode where we have the contest for the Build-A-Cade. It's really not hard to enter, but you can win some really great prizes. And I think, next week, so many people are saying in the chat, I think next week, we're going to do some classic movies. Classic movies next week.
Like 50s or 80s?
80s. Maybe some 70s thrown in there. Maybe 50s film.
When people say classic, it's black and white normally, but
there are some good ones in black and white as well. So we'll have to wait and see.
I haven't seen many, but yeah, sure.
Well, just all you got to do is find an old TV set and put Terminator on a black and white TV.
There you go.
There you go.
Gives it a whole new meaning. Cool.
So,
well, thank you everybody for
It's
in.
9 o'clock. The Super Game Room Dudes is kicking on over there. But once again, we want to thank each and every one of you for joining. I know JLS Gaming came in, and his wife came in as well, which is always nice to see them. A reminder also, I will be in September at the Gaming Expo out in Ohio. Hopefully I'll see some of you guys there. But Steven, what do we say? What do we do? It's time to go.
It's time to go.
Yeah. If I may just have a closing
of
statement.
Course.
Yeah. No, I thank you for your time, both of you. I appreciate the positive feedback from the group and in the chat. And it's been a pleasure. It's been a pleasure. And at the end of the day, this is for the people out there. It's not just about me and the team. It's about supporting the community, giving a fair price, a fair product. And the future is what we make it with everyone.
And that's it. And that's the biggest thing, because that's as everyone knows, that's my thing. It's about the community. It's about supporting the community and labor of love for them. So Vintex, really appreciate those last words and comments. And we'll leave that at that. We can't top that. It's about everyone out there.
Good evening, and thank you for coming out, and game on.
Game on.
All the best.
At the Tiny Arcade fan page. Remember, don't admire people too much. They'll disappoint you.
Sit, Blue Blue, sit.